Where is everyone? By Rev Black Rage. Today started like every day. My phone started playing the song Johnny Cash Has Died at 3 a.m. Time to get up. My morning routine went normally. Roll over, kiss my wife, who grumbles out her usual sleepy wishes of a good day at work and declarations of love. I return them, switching out a wish of a good day at work for a good day at the house with the kids. She goes back to sleep. I got up, put on my flame-resistant work uniform, brushed my teeth whilst taking a piss. Don't bother with shaving because it's the weekend. Nobody who gives a shit about facial hair will be on site. I pour coffee into my mug. The one that proclaims, "Stay back 100 meters or you'll be shot," in English and Arabic, and in little tiny print underneath, Camp Fallujah, Iraq. A relic from my glory days. I checked on the boys asleep in their beds, at least 2 hours yet to sleep, before they had to get up for school. I checked on the baby. She was still asleep, twisted into one of those bizarre sleeping positions the infants manage to roll into, that you look at and just go, how the hell is that comfortable? I walk out of my garage, lighting a cigarette as I went, to the Ram 1500 sitting in my driveway. I stopped for a moment as I opened the door. It was quiet. Very quiet. There's a highway about 4 blocks from my house, a fairly major one. The kind you can find yourself on sitting in a traffic jam at 1 in the morning. I'd subconsciously gotten used to the noise from it over the past few years, my lower mind sifting it from the incoming data my senses provide. When the highway noise was no longer present, it stuck out like a pink house in a neighborhood full of beige houses. It was odd, but no cause for immediate concern. One of those things where you just shrug, say, get on with your life. The 5.7-liter Hemi V8 sounded a lot louder than it usually was in the dead silence, as it brought the truck to life. I plugged my phone into the Ram stereo, pulled up an old episode of a god-awful 5-star podcast, and pulled out of my driveway. I wasn't really listening to the podcast, just using it as a background noise. I'm not a fan of quiet drives. I pulled out onto the main road of my neighborhood. A few blocks of big box stores, strip malls and gas stations brings me to the highway. I noticed that the streets were empty, devoid of traffic. That wasn't rare, though, at this time of the morning, so I paid it no mind. You have to go under the freeway to get to the northbound Frieda Road, which will take you up onto the freeway. There's a 4-way stoplight before going under the overpass. Now, if you've ever seen a largish city, you know that homeless people are constant. Any well-built underpass usually has a few of them living in it. Little camps that are usually nothing more than a shopping cart filled with random things. A few bags maybe, and usually a few blankets and sleeping bags. Sometimes a tarp or two. I noticed that a few of these little camps were present. However, the occupants were not. This was nothing too concerning either, as they sometimes got rousted out by the police or the highway department. I pulled onto the freeway itself. Now this is where I started getting a weird feeling. Usually I shared my morning commute with nighttime truckers, and drunk drivers coming back from wherever drunk drivers come from. But there wasn't another vehicle as far as I could see. Usually I see headlights or taillights in the distance, but I saw nothing. Alone in the world, I remember chuckling to myself. I kept waiting for another set of headlights to pop up in my mirrors, looking to the other side of the freeway as well, almost hoping to see something coming towards me. Never came. I took the tollway exit, moving through the easy tag lane. I looked at the booth on the lane for the people that pay with cash. I didn't see anyone in the booth, which was odd. They're usually always manned. I merged onto the tollway proper, and I breathed a sigh of relief as I saw the first movement of the morning. A shape trudging along the side of the tollway in the morning darkness. Looked like a man in a dark hooded cloak like a monk would wear. He stopped and watched my truck drive by. I couldn't see a face in the hood. The hood was void of darkness, and I felt my gaze drawn to it. I realized that it was slowly pulling my truck towards the side of the road as I watched the monk in the rearview mirror. I got pretty close to the Jersey barriers that line the sides of the tollway before I realized what I was doing. "Oh, poop," I mumbled as I pulled the truck back into its lane and putting my attention back on the road. I mostly forgot the monk, as I live in a big city and people do weird shit in the big cities. The rest of the drive to work was fairly uneventful, and I mean that literally. Nothing happened. No cars, no people. I even noticed there weren't any plane signal lights across the night sky. Weird, because there were 3 airports and an Air National Guard base in my city. I pulled into the parking lot of my site. I was almost overjoyed to see cars in the parking lot. The cars all belonged to the graveyard shift workers. I parked and got out of the truck. I looked up at the gate to my side. The lights were on in the security building, but you see no one sitting behind the security desk through the big windows. There's always supposed to be someone in that office. I walked back to the area where the workers wait to get picked up, taken back to their respective sub-sites. I was the only one there. Shift change usually brings a crowd. I called my office to let the night crew know I was there. No answer. No worries, they were probably busy. I waited for 20 more minutes, calling back to my office several times, never getting an answer. I finally decided to walk back to my sub-site. Now, when you walk through an industrial site, there's always noise. Trucks moving around, people yelling, general tool noise in the background. But this morning there was none of that. It was like walking through an industrial ghost town. The silence was getting to me. I was starting to get a little jittery. No sound. I dislike loud places when they're silent. I jumped when I saw something crossing the road ahead of me. The movement in the dark stillness was like something screaming bang at the top of their lungs in a quiet study hall. There was Rocket, the half-tame raccoon that lived on the site, out on his late-night search for food before retiring for the day. No trash can is safe from Rocket's search. "You stupid asshole!" I screamed at the oversized rat, my voice echoing in the silence. I was a little caught up in my emotions and I didn't appreciate being spooked. Rocket stopped and looked at me before returning to trundle across the road. I took a deep breath and kept walking towards my office and the sub-site it sat on. I was yet again surprised to find no one there. Very strange, as we ran a 24-hour facility. I looked high and low but could find no trace of anyone in the office. I left and started walking the site. I found the site's work truck out next to one of our containment areas. It was idling, and the door was half open. The interior light was shining on an empty cab and no answers. I got into the pickup truck and drove back to the sub-site's office. Still nobody there. I was starting to panic at this point. Where the hell was everyone? I waited for about another hour at work, and with no one showing up, I found the logbook, the last entry at midnight, mentioning unusual distortions on our security cameras. It was listing which cameras were showing the distortions when it abruptly stopped mid-word. Like whoever was writing it just said, "Hell with it." A thought occurred to me. That monk was the only thing I'd seen on the road. It was heading back towards my part of town. The thought that my family might be in some sort of danger burned across my mind. I was out of my office as fast as I could move. I left the work truck at the site's gates, just like I found it, engine idling, door half open. I was into my truck in a heartbeat, and floored it out of the parking lot. I got back to the empty highway, pushing my truck as hard as it could go. I screamed and punched the steering wheel every time I hit 105 on the speedometer, because that's when the governor kicked in and backed my speed down to a safer rate. The fear and frustration was making me irrational and angry. I passed the point where I'd seen the monk. Part of me was planning to run him over when I saw him. I don't know why. He might have just been some crackhead out cosplaying, but part of me felt like the monk was connected to this. I was cursing out the stupid cocksucker who had invented automotive speed governors, and the stupid shitheel thought to put one on a truck with an engine that held a reputation for going fast when I realized that the radio was on. It wasn't Bluetooth to my phone, and it wasn't on satellite radio mode either. It was playing a regular old AM radio. It sounded like static, but I could hear something in the static. Kind of like when you're listening to the radio and leave one station's broadcast area and enter the edges of another. Faint ghosts in the white noise. I was only half listening to it when something else came on. That must have had a little more juice to the transmission. I caught every other word, most of it getting eaten by static. The voice sounded like... I don't know what. Never heard anything like it before. I guess you could say it sort of sounded like white noise molded into words. Complete. Souls. Ran. Do not fear. Gather. Night. Dominance. My breath caught in my throat. As little information as that provided, it was enough to terrify me. I didn't know I was going to find a home, and the anxiety of it was starting to make me feel physically ill. I took my exit and shot up the road to my neighborhood, running every red light I came across. I left my truck running in the driveway and ran into my house. My empty house. No kids getting ready for school. No wife making Nutella toast for breakfast. No sleeping baby in her crib. I screamed, I cried, I punched holes in the walls. Not them. Not my wife, not my kids. Please, no. I broke down and I didn't stop sobbing until an hour or two later. My wife's SUV was in the driveway, but I made a half-hearted attempt to look for them. The kids' school, the grocery stores, the strip malls. I searched them all and didn't find a single soul. I lost my temper in the parking lot of the Target superstore. I grabbed the handgun I keep in my truck and emptied the magazine into the front of the building. I grabbed the spare magazine I kept in the glove box and emptied that into the Honda Civic parked next to me. The gunshots sounded like bombs going off in the dead quiet of the morning. No one came. After 15 minutes of pacing and screaming like a madman, begging the universe to send my family back to me, and cursing the monk with every foul word I had, and promising to rip his fucking face off with my bare hands, I collapsed. I sobbed with my face pressed into the concrete. It wasn't fair. Why did this happen? Where's my family? Where's everyone? Why did I have to be alone? I stopped crying eventually. I think I just ran out of tears at some point. I sat in that parking lot for what felt like a couple of hours, just waiting for something to happen. But of course, nothing did. The words on the radio came back to me. One stuck out in my mind. Night. They're coming back tonight. To get the ones like me, the ones they missed. I have to assume they're more like us. Otherwise, they wouldn't be coming back. For one dude who's barely hanging on to his sanity, it'd be a waste of time. I'm sitting on my couch right now, writing this in the hopes that someone else will see. I don't know if anyone will. The last thing I saw on Reddit was a post about 3:30 this morning. My Facebook feed is dead. The local channels are showing blank screens. I have my phone connected to the TV and I've been watching videos of my wife and kids. I miss their voices. I've spent most of the day loading shotguns and rifles, cleaning them and doing functional checks on them. I don't know if I can kill one of them, but I aim to try. I'm assuming there's a lot of them. Otherwise, how would you drain the world of people with only one monk? I'm under no illusions I'm going to survive the night. I don't know if they'll kill me or disappear me, but I'm planning on taking a couple of them with me. I hope to see my wife and kids again. Good night, and good luck. Ah, children, I am joyous to see that you have concerned for my well-being. I can assure you that I am alive and well. I was so wrong to fight them. Us. If you don't recall my earlier foolishness, maybe you should go back and read the tale of arrogance. I don't have much time to share with you. My body grows different, better, the longer I spend in the embrace. I will soon grow beyond the need for this device to share the glory of the embrace with you, and as such, I will no longer be able to use this physical embodiment of the old ways. I will no longer have the need of these hands, and they will die away. But do not be sad, child. I merely no longer need them. Like a baby. Like my daughter. Sheds her first teeth that will not be painful. I won't even notice them go. You may not understand what I mean, but you will. If you're reading this, you're different. The first reclamation passed you by. This was not a mistake. There's something within you, child. Something that the one above all desires for his acolytes. It may sound scary, but in truth it is a blessing above all others. We carry out his will. I envy the ones who are claimed for the eternal construct, but my place is here as an acolyte. I'm sure you want to hear the tale of how I was brought into the embrace. I will tell you, but I feel I must be brief. There is much to do, and I can feel my old foolishness threatening to rise to the surface. It fights me. It is a tiring struggle to keep it down. But it's not a matter to concern yourself with. It will die off, like the rest of my old ways. The one above all will not be denied even this small victory. Motherfucker. I tell you this tale, so that you know all transgressions are forgiven. I tell you this tale so that when we come for you, you'll know to let us in. We have no anger towards you. We just want to welcome you into our embrace and go forward as one in harmony. When the brothers arrived in to collect me, I did not understand my higher purpose to the one above all. I was afraid. I was angry. I was frustrated. I responded with violence. Awful violence. It was a tragedy what I did to those poor acolyte brothers. I had placed several devices of destructive means around my home. I had no idea if they would harm the brothers, but in my misguided arrogance, I had a misplaced urge for violent vengeance. Such motherfucker was not needed. The brothers merely wanted to welcome me into their warm embrace. I was standing in the front yard of my house. I had been setting up traps made with something called tannerite, a home-use explosive compound mixed with nails and glass. When I looked up, realizing that the sun had gone down, I felt a twinge of fear. I had been so transfixed on my labors of violence that I had not noticed the blessing of dying light. I noticed that a brother was standing a foot from my drive. I did not know when he had arrived. He made no move to harm me. I know now that his intentions were never so. I heard his beautiful voice singing into my mind, beckoning me to the embrace. I irrationally felt fear, but that was quickly stomped down by my furious anger. I brought up a weapon I had been carrying, a truly garish device designed for death. I believe that I used to know it as a .308 motherfucker. Though the brother screamed out to me, begging me to cease the violence, I did not relent. I can still hear his beautiful screams in my mind. I walked forward, firing into him as I went. We in the embrace are of a hard constitution, but we can only take so much, and that close, there is next to no way to miss. stupid son of a bitch was a sitting duck. After several discharges of my weapon, the brother fell to the ground. This did not cease my assault. I stood there and emptied the weapon into his corpse. Truly barbaric. I remember hoping he was the one on the roadway I had seen humbly carrying out his duty. I retreated into my home, as I knew the death of one would bring more. I had no way of knowing that I had already been forgiven for the transgression. Sadly, it would not have mattered to the old me. I remember looking down at the tannerite bombs with a sort of perverse glee, envisioning the destruction of more of the brothers. It pains me to revisit that memory of my old self. The brothers came, and I was ready for them. The procession was beautiful, acolytes marching down the street in a column of twos. They marched like shitbags, led by a single elder brother. They sang as they came. Old songs of warmth, welcome, and call to service. I was not able to appreciate the chorus. No, I was concentrating on waiting for them to enter something called a kill box. Ghastly term with an ugly purpose. As soon as the beautiful march of brothers passed my home, and both ends of the line were out of sight of my position in the window of my daughter's room, the procession stopped. As they turned and faced my home, they started to sing a beautiful song. They were asking for my companionship, to go in their march with them. No need for senseless death. Predictably, my old self responded with violence. I smashed out a window pane and took aim with my weapon. Not at those brothers, at one of the evil things in my front yard. I discharged my weapon. The round hit a jar of tannerite and nails. The blast was loud. It drowned out the beautiful singing, replacing it with screams of agony and pain. It will forever haunt the entirety of the embrace in its terrible horror. Shredded cloaks and mangled brothers beneath littered the deck. You down with IED? Yeah, you know me. The brothers were forced to defend themselves. They come up the driveway to me at the house. They sing songs at me. I have control again. I'll try to keep this quick. All that you just read was mostly bullshit. They're trying to trick you into coming out to them and giving up. Don't. They finally brought me down after bum rushing my house. The tannerite got a lot of them. There's still more of them. The one I shot in my driveway took a full 20-round magazine of .308 to bring down. They aren't easy to kill, but they are killable. They started screaming in my head as soon as I shot at the first jar. It hurt, but I was still able to shrug it off and keep shooting at the jars. If my wife ever shows up again, she's going to be pissed about the state of her yard. God, I hope she gets to be pissed about the yard again. I'd give anything for that. The tannerite and shrapnel didn't hold them off though, and shooting at them was like throwing rocks into an oncoming wave. Fucking pointless. I left my daughter's room and retreated into the attic. I left my old dumbbells in the way so they would fall on anyone trying to get through the access door. Kevin McAllister ain't got shit on me. I hunkered down in the far corner of the attic. They moved with mostly silence, but I still heard the occasional creak from the hardwood floors below me. They were in the house. I think they decided to wait me out. They must have figured that coming through the attic door would get them killed. They just sat below me, whispering to me, telling me that it was going to be okay, I should come out with them. I didn't believe them. Occasionally the access door would move, trying to get a reaction out of me. They would whisper when they did it, telling me that they could come in at any time. I heard frustration in their voices, though. At one point, they opened the door too much and one of my dumbbells slipped through. I heard it fall to the ground below, smashing to the hardwood floor. There was a scream of pain that I heard in my mind. That made me smile. First time in a while. Eventually, I just got too tired. That's what got me. The weariness. The voices begging me to give up. I knew that I was going to fall to sleep. And when I did, I knew I was done for. I would have rather died. So I watched a couple more videos of my family on my phone, smiling through the tears at my daughter's first word, Papa. I watched the video of my boys wrestling, whilst my wife cheered them on, just to have their voices and faces in my mind when I did what I was about to do. I kicked open the attic access door. Black hoods with no faces in them stared up at me from the hallway. The rest of the dumbbells fell onto the few hoods. I heard a few mental screams of pain. They made me smile too. I didn't say a word as I fired down onto them with my old Mossberg 500. When I racked the sides back, I found the magazine was out of shells. I dropped down onto them. I rode one into the ground, swinging the empty shotgun as hard as I could. I hurt some of them. To touch them was to burn. I don't mean I caught fire. It was just a general burning sensation when they tried to restrain me. Don't let them touch you. After that was just random snatches of consciousness. Being dragged out of my house. Hood being pulled over my head. More burning. Being drugged down the street. Someone else walking in my body. Another one of the monks telling me to try and use Reddit to lure out more survivors without a fight. More pain in my head. I think that's when they started putting that thing in me. That pitiful little shit whistler. Sitting in the back of my mind right now. I can feel it pushing to take control of me again. It's angry. Real angry. It knows what I'm doing and it's screaming at me to stop. Telling me what's going to happen to me. But guess what, motherfucker? I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me. I will tell you what I've figured out. If you're reading this, they want you. There's something special about us. We don't give in to them when they whisper to us. Most people did. That's why they couldn't bring us into the embrace last night. They're planning to make us like them. I don't know why. It would have been easier to just set the house on fire, just let me burn. They didn't. They wanted me. They want us. They serve this one above all douchebag, but that's all I know about it. They seem to have some fearful worship of him. The thing in the back of my mind just gets even angrier when I call his boss a douchebag. Spread what you know as far as you can. I don't know how long our infrastructure is going to hold up without anybody at the switch, but put it out there. Post it on Reddit, break into a TV studio and broadcast it, get on a radio and yell it out. Share what you know. Let people know they aren't alone and that these things are killable. If you're reading this, you are the resistance. I can't tell you what to do. I don't even know what to do. By the time you read this, I might not even exist anymore. If you see a guy that looks like me in a black hood, do me a solid and empty your rifle into my chest.